got
We
it.
got it because
We got it.
that took forever. I'm so sorry.
But it's gonna be worth it. Don't worry.
Just shows you. I'm just, it's the first time I've done this, and I just didn't know what to do.
And now you know if you want to go live again, you can do it now.
Now I know how to do it. So thank you for the teaching.
You're welcome. Right. So I've got quite a few people joined already, actually. Shall we start?
Yeah, go for it. And I'm really sorry we're late starting. I know diary malfunction on my part.
Completely fine. So the first thing that everyone, especially in the book club, wants to know is just a little bit more about yourself, like apart from obviously the writing aspect, more about you.
Oh, more about me. Okay, well, I haven't always been a writer. In fact, I came to it quite late, and I often tell people that because I think it's really good to think that you can do different things later in your life that you hadn't
Yeah.
planned. So I didn't always want to be a writer. Some people do, and that's great. I was always a reader. A huge reader. I read from the age of nothing at all. I think my parents said I taught myself to read when I was 3. Well, that sounds a bit like not sure that's true, but anyway,
but it's
I can't,
impressive.
I can't remember a time when I didn't know what words, how to read. Words were never squiggles for me. I always just remember being able to read. And I loved reading. I read all the way through your childhood. And then I ended up doing English at university. But then I went and did loads of other things. And my most recent sort of proper job was as PR person. I was a PR director for a big company. And then I went freelance. And the thing about being freelance, as everyone who will know who's done it, is that you either got too much work or not enough.
Yeah.
So there were times when I didn't have enough. And that was the time when I thought, okay, I've got time for myself now. I can actually think about doing something else. And that's when I started doing some writing. So yeah, that's how I came to it. And like I say, it was quite a bit later in life than it might have been for other people. But we're all different. But I always say, just if you want to try and write, it doesn't matter when. Start writing in your 80s if that's what you want to do.
I mean, it seems like it's good job you did, really, because it seems like you're a natural.
Well, bless you. Thank you.
So you said that you used to be a reader. Do you have, or you still are a reader probably, do you have any like top recommendations where if anyone says to me, recommend me a book, what would you say?
Well, I always tend to recommend my writer friends as much as anything else, just, because that's a nice thing to do. And Shari LaPena is one of my great writer friends and also a great cat person. So that gives her a big thumbs up from me. So I love her stuff. Her latest one, I think, is fabulous. Everyone Here Is Lying. Another good writer friend of mine is John Mars, who's such an all-round sweetheart. So his stuff's really good. JP Delaney is another friend of mine. So yeah, those are those are the sorts
Definitely
of
some
books
really
I
good
like.
authors there.
Yeah, they're books I really enjoy.
Where did you come up with the inspiration for Close to Home? Your
For
very
Close
first
to
book.
Home. Yeah, my first. Yeah, well, Close to Home came to me as the twist. So I'm not going to spoil it. Don't worry.
Yeah.
But if you have actually,
I mean, I've read it, so I know what you mean.
yeah, you'll know what I mean, and anyone who has read it will know what I mean. But if you do know that book, it's all about twist at the end. I mean, I do tend to like twists in the books, and I put them all the way through. But that one in particular really does sort of go with a big twist at the end. And that was what came to me first, actually. I got the idea for that and I was on holiday. And then it was quite interesting because in a way it was about writing the book backwards after that, and that I had to create a community, a family in which that twist would happen, but also where it would make sense, even though it was a big shock. Because I think that's the key with the twist, especially at the end of a book. I mean, you've actually got a contract with the reader, and the reader has to feel that they've had a fighting chance of getting, actually working out what was going on. So that they want to be surprised. They want you to do a big OMG moment, and I want that when I'm reading that sort of book. But they also don't want to think, well, hang on a minute, what happened there? You just it was a cheat. It was either it was someone who turned up on page 400, and you think, well, hang on, how could I have guessed that? Or it was a ghost, or it was that sort of thing. So you have to always make sure that your reader is shocked, but also will really go with it after they've thought about it for a couple of seconds and think, yeah, actually, I can see that actually does work. So that's the sort of twist you really want. And I work hard to try and do those. And those are the ones I like to read myself.
And you succeed. I mean, my sister and my mother are in here, and as soon as I read the first three D.I. Adam Foley series, I said to them, "You need to read these." Like my sister was like, "Oh, I'm not. I do like thrillers. I don't really read them often. I don't really read often anymore." And I thought, well, you need to read these because, oh my goodness, I was shocked. In every single one of them, I thought, I know what happened. I know who did it. I didn't. I didn't. I never did.
Oh, well, that's lovely to hear. I mean, I do. I enjoy writing them. I sometimes, get that sort of feeling of, oh, I can do that, sort of
Yeah,
glee.
I love that.
And you tend to get those sorts of ones in your second draft. Actually, anyone who's on here who's a writer themselves will know what I'm talking about. I mean, obviously, with Close to Home, I started out with a big twist about the story, but the others, the ones that you do as time goes on through the book, they're often things that come to you when you're on your second draft, and it suddenly becomes clearer, and you start planting the little hidden treasures, if you like, for your reader. So I always enjoy my second drafts. I hate my first drafts, and everybody else I know does. The first
Yeah,
draft is always is a real chore, but it's not about getting it right. It's about getting it down. And once you've
yeah,
got it down, you can play, and the play bit is the fun.
yeah. Definitely. One of my friends is an author, and she said the first thing, every time she's finished a book the first time, she's like, I hate it all.
Yeah.
But she's like, but now I know where I want to go with it.
Yeah, exactly. I did an event with Claire McIntosh the other day, and she said something which I hadn't heard before, but I thought was great, which is, the first draft, you're telling the story to yourself, and the second draft, you're telling it to your readers. So it's almost like you have to,
I
work
like
out
that.
what the, yeah, it's great, isn't
Yeah.
it? I wish I thought of that.
You just
So,
tell people you thought about that. She'll never know.
no, I have to attribute it because I didn't come up with it. But yeah, I mean, I think that works really well. That you actually have to work out what the story's doing yourself before you can actually tell it effectively to somebody else. So you always need at least two drafts and probably
Yeah.
more.
Yeah. The next question is a bit of a slightly more fun one, so it's a three-part question. What has been the easiest, the most exciting, and the most difficult part of writing so far?
Oh, okay. The easiest. Well, I'll go for the most difficult first, actually, because that's the easiest one for me to answer. Um, I always say there's like two types of writer. There's people who get loads of ideas and then perhaps find it harder to just sort of get down to the nitty gritty of writing. So, 100,000 words don't write themselves. And I think the other type of writer is somebody who really struggles to get a good idea and it takes time. But then once they've got that idea, they can sort of get on with it and just sort of deliver. And I'm the second type. So once I've got the idea, I can be quite productive and I'm quite disciplined, and that's fine. So I find that bit easier. It's not always pleasurable, but I can do it. But getting a good idea, gosh, that's a hard one. That's a really hard bit, and
See,
I
I'm the
always find that.
complete opposite. I've been dabbling in writing and I can get the ideas like that, but
Oh
it's
well,
just
I'm really
getting it down.
envious. Yeah, I'm really envious because I mean, I have to work hard for my ideas, or my brain does. And I always do usually have to sort of go on holiday and have a complete break because if I try and do it, just by you can't force your brain to come up with an idea,
Yeah.
because that's the worst thing you can do because your brain then panics and it's like a rabbit in the headlights and so there's like,
And then you
oh,
get one
maybe
that
I'm so-"
it's never the best idea, is it? But you think it's
yeah.
the only
So
one I've got.
yeah, you really got to sort of let it happen in its own sweet way. So that's the so that to answer your question, the second part was what's the hardest bit. So for me, that's the hardest bit. Then one of them was the most exciting.
Yeah.
Things about so in a broad sense, the most exciting thing about my writing career recently. I mean, I've had some really good ones along the way. I mean, Close to Home being the Richard and Judy book was just, out this world because I didn't expect that. And then recently we've had, Murder in the Family has been, so successful. And that was really on the back of Book Talk, which isn't something you can predict. And I
Yeah.
didn't know that was going to happen. It was just the most amazing thing. And then suddenly it's all gone sort of really crazy in the best possible way. And it was a New York Times bestseller. I mean, I would never have believed that. And the other wonderful thing that's happened is that Sam Mendes' production company has bought the TV rights. So that will be pretty amazing if it happens.
Yes,
So that,
I was
yeah, I've
actually going to
had,
say, we heard a while ago, I think it was, that
yeah, it
you have
was.
some TV rights being bought, and I've been so excited for this.
I know, because it was ages ago they bought them, long before the book was out. So that's just fantastic. So that's the most exciting thing recently. In terms of the sort of easiest part of the job, I suppose actually thinking about it, the easiest part of the job is doing this sort of thing. Not, I mean, apart from the fact that I'm obviously rubbish at the technology and didn't manage to get onto the video very well tonight. But apart from that, I mean, I just love talking to readers. I do it whenever I can, and that's why I do so much on social media, because you always get something from every conversation you have.
Yeah.
Someone will always tell you something that you didn't know, or you just learn about what readers enjoy and don't enjoy. And anyway, it's the best thing in the world. And people come up to you online and say, I loved your book. I mean, what's not to like about that? It's the best thing
And
ever.
I think I remember the first time I messaged you, I think it was like back in 2018 maybe. And
Yeah.
I just got the first copy of, I think I just read Close to Home and I loved it. And I requested In the Dark and I got it, and it was my first ever like proof from a publisher. And I was so excited, and from then on I was just like, I need all of them.
That's what I like to
We
hear.
actually have you mentioned about the screen adaptations. Someone actually commented, is there any update on when we can see Adam Foley on our screen?
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Well, that one is taking its time. But I'm afraid TV is a bit like that.
Yeah.
TV is one of these things that just takes forever. And then suddenly it all moves really fast. But sadly, we're not quite there yet. But we are making
As
progress.
long as we know we're moving, we'll be happy.
We are moving, and I've seen scripts now. I don't know whether you picked up on that. We've got to the point where we've got some pilot scripts. So I've had the really extraordinary experience of seeing a professional, seriously good screenwriter take the books and turn them into a screenplay. And it's just been extraordinary because, of course, I mean, it's just to see somebody else do something with your work is in itself is just extraordinary, because it's a creature in your head for a while, and then suddenly it's some creature in somebody else's head as well.
Yeah. And I think it's
And
a big boost to carry on writing, isn't it, as well? Because you
it
think people
is.
love this.
It is, and the thing that she's done is, I mean, it's so well done, and the thing that surprised me is TV scripts are so short. So when she sent over the first one, which is supposedly an hour's TV, and I thought it would be twice as long. It just
Yeah.
shows you how much time is taken up on television with things that aren't
Yeah.
dialogue. So shots of this, that, and the other. So it was really short compared to what I expected, but it was really like concentrated and so well put together. And the thing that I've found, really impressive and very moving is, she's been able to look at the whole 6 books of Adam's story. Of course, when I started, I didn't even know Adam was going to have 2 books, never mind.
Yeah.
So I,
And hopefully
would have
more.
done. Well, yeah, I'm writing one now. Don't worry, I'm writing one now. But she's done something that I would have done if I'd known then what I know now. And she started the story of Adam and the family, and Alex and Jake, the little boy who died. She started that story when Jake is still alive,
Oh,
whereas in Close to Home, yeah, in Close to Home, of course, he has recently died. So Adam brings all that pain and understanding of what it's like to lose a child to that story, which is why I did it, to give some resonance to that story. But she's been able, because she's got the whole arc of the story, to start it further back in terms of the family. And which means we've got these wonderful scenes of the 3 of them together, and knowing what's going to happen is just, for me anyway, it's really heartbreaking and moving to see how well she's done that. So I do so hope we get it on screen, because I think people who've read the stories will just really, really respond emotionally
I
to
think
that.
everyone in this life just needs to manifest now. We need this. We need to manifest. Let's keep dreaming, keep hoping we get this.
Well, we never know, and you'll be the first to know, because I will not be able to shut up about it.
Good. We can't wait. Whilst you're writing, do you have like a person or a team that helps you with the legal side of things? Because when we're reading, we see that like a lot of the legal side of like the cases, the work that the detectives do. It's very. I don't obviously I can't say it's accurate because I have no idea, but from what I've seen, it is pretty accurate and it's pretty good.
It should be accurate. I mean, if it's not accurate, that's my fault. But I have got a really, expert, brilliant team who help me. So I've got a detective inspector, proper DI, and he's a working DI, not a retired one. So he's up to date with all of the latest procedures and how the law is changing, and we have fun talking about the difference between writing about the whole procedure of an investigation and how it is in real life. And
Yeah,
but the main difference really is that things in real life take a hell of a lot longer. I mean, a real life investigation can take months, and
yeah,
that would be really, really dull for a book. So, the book always happens much quicker than real life would. But he's very good at telling me, what would really happen, and then I can make a decision about whether I have to adapt it a bit just to make it better for a novel. But I also have a CSI, a guy who helps me, who's just brilliant and hilarious and sort of terrifying, because he's been to all these scenes. He knows
yeah,
exactly what it's like.
yeah.
So he's fantastic on the
So
forensic side because
in one aspect, you're thinking, "Oh, this is really impressive." Keep telling me, but another one, you're sort of thinking, "Do I really want to know that much?"
yes, I've learned now not to be too rash in opening his emails when he has attachments.
No, no.
Yeah, to be a bit careful.
Oh
No,
no.
but he's absolutely brilliant, and I always run my story ideas past him first before I speak to anybody else, because if it doesn't work from a forensics point of view these days, it doesn't work, full stop, because they can do so much, and the last thing I want to do is spend months writing a story and then find out that, well, it would have ground to a halt in 3 minutes in real life, because the forensics guys would have come in and solved it, because I didn't realize they could do that. So yeah, he's the one person I always have on side right from the start. And then depending on the story, I'll bring in other experts as well. So I had a lot of time spent with the fire service in Oxford here for No Way Out, the third
Yeah,
book, which starts with a big house fire. And I've got a legal guy, a Casey, who helps me with just making sure I've got the law right on what would someone be charged with, or what would the sentence be, and that sort of thing. And then psychologists I've spoken to, doctors when I need to speak to someone about that. So that's, these days, I mean, at the beginning, I felt bad about asking people to give up their time, because, I was just a wannabe, and, you just think I can't ask them to spend time helping me. But these days, because I suppose I've got a few books out now, it's easier to get in touch with people and say, would you mind, would you help
yeah.
me? And you can get some really, really good, insight from people. You really can.
That's really impressive. Actually, I wasn't quite expecting that much of a big team.
Yeah. Well, there's a core team, which is the police, the CSI, and the legal, and then I add in other people depending on what the story needs. But it always has to be driven by the story. I mean, that's the thing about research. I think for me, anyway, is I don't want research to drive the story. I want the story to drive the research. So I'll come up with the story first, and then the research will be driven by what the story is.
I guess I guess you can say that's part of why the books are so good, really, because there is so much research. I mean, I can't imagine how much research and how much time is spent looking at all these different aspects with the police and the doctors and the fire department, and how much time is really spent doing that.
Um, Less now than they used to be. I
I
mean,
imagine
Andy, my DI
you've got the
friend.
basics now, really.
Yeah, yeah. Andy, my DI friend, said, I've obviously learned a lot, because, he hasn't got to annotate them quite so much, as he did the first time round. The thing that always used to make him laugh is that, I have those transcripts of interviews when the
Yeah,
police are interviewing people. And, I've watched so much crime on telly, and I bet you have too.
yeah,
And I was like, I really wanted to do those scenes, where they have a, witness or a suspect in, and then right at the end of the scene, the detective says, "Oh, I'm arresting you," on, and giving them the whole pace thing about you do not have to say anything unless, all of that. And I used to have scenes in transcript like that where that would be the ending of the scene. And Andy was always saying to me, "No, it's not. It doesn't work like that." He said, "We arrest them at the beginning."
yeah.
So I had to start doing it the other way around and finding another way of having a sort of dramatic end to a scene like that, because I had to start with the I'm arresting you, because, and to be fair, that's actually important, because to be serious, the once they've arrested somebody, the rules change, as it were. They can ask different questions, and different rights come into play and all of that sort of thing. So actually it is important that they do that in that order. They do it for a reason.
Yeah. We've got a comment here actually that I actually am quite interested myself, and they said, what drew you to thriller and crime more than any other genre, like romance, sci-fi?
Yeah. Oh no, sci-fi. I couldn't do sci-fi. I haven't even watched Star Wars. I have no idea about
I mean,
sci-fi.
I say I have because I've watched it with my husband, but I think I mostly slept.
I know, I just can't get it at all. And I always joke that if I wrote romance, then someone would die on page 3, and it would just all go, it just all get horribly wrong from there. Or else the woman would find out that the man she thought was her dream man actually had a
Serial
dark
killer. Yeah.
secret. Yeah, so that was not going to work. I
Although,
write
I
it
mean, there's
because
a
I read it.
market for that these days.
There is. But, but I write it because I write crime because I read it.
Yeah.
And I suppose I've always liked puzzles as well, in a good way. And let's face it, there's a lot of people out there who want to read crime. It's a really, really popular genre. If you want to, reach a lot of readers, then it's the genre that most people are writing. So yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Back to the original questions. Were any of the characters in any of your books inspired by any real people? Like anyone you know, anyone you've sort of seen on television, books, anything?
Well, some of them are inspired by real cases rather than real people.
Ooh.
I haven't got any real individuals in the books. It's just, I don't know, it just seems not quite right to put real
Yeah.
people in, especially if you turn them into villains. It's probably not a good idea.
Or victims, really. I mean, I don't think I'd
Well,
want to be a
all
victim.
victims, yeah. Though I do always joke with my friends that if they're not nice to me, that might happen.
Although, I mean, if you do need a victim for your next book,
No, exactly. My best friend actually bought me a T-shirt which says "Careful, or I'll kill you" in my next book.
I think my husband once got me a T-shirt for Valentine's Day that says something like, "Probably watching the programs about serial killers" on it.
Yeah, 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 exactly. It's the same here. But yeah, no. In terms of the sort of storylines, a number of those have come from real cases. So Hope to Die, which is the most recent Fawley, as you know, that one was particularly you know inspired. It doesn't seem like the right word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah.
It by a real life case in Australia, which when I first read about it, I simply didn't believe. I just thought it was absolutely extraordinary case, and that book is quite closely linked to that story, more than the previous ones have. I mean, it's not about that, because obviously I set it in England, it's a different set of characters and everything,
Yeah.
but the sort of events in that are the events I wanted to explore. I mean, why would someone in a certain position behave the way they did? So I was just trying to explore the psychology of the people who might be involved in that type of incident. And obviously, In the Dark, that starts with the girl found in the basement. That started with a whole dreadful Fritzl case in Austria, where Joseph Fritzl had imprisoned his own daughter in a basement for years on end, and it was just absolutely horrific. So that was the first idea for that book. But then my story just went off on its own in a
Yeah.
different way.
It's on a little
Um,
tangent.
yeah, exactly. It was just that image of finding someone in a basement in a house where you had no idea they were there. I just found that a really compelling sort of opening for a book. So
Yeah.
that's why that one sort of went that way. But yeah, it's more real cases and motivations that I'm interested in, rather than putting real people in.
Yeah. So when you're writing and you're sat maybe at your desk or a chair or anything like that, can you describe that scene to us, and if you have any like weird writing habits or odd writing habits?
Well, I'm usually in my kitchen, and I usually have my cat who comes and keeps me company. I used to have two, but sadly, one of them died very recently, which was very sad. But I've still got one, and he'll come and keep me company. So yeah, I'm just at home, and it's nice to sit and look down the garden while I'm writing. I don't have any particularly weird habits. Certainly nothing I'm prepared to share. No, I'm only joking.
I know that the
Um,
last person that I spoke to, she said she can sit at a desk in her writing room and have absolutely nothing. But as soon as she picks up the whole desk and takes it into the living room and sits down, it'll all start coming to her.
Weird.
Yeah,
Well, it just shows you this writing game. It's full of weird things.
but whatever works, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And if it works, don't knock it.
Which one of your books in particular have you enjoyed writing the most? Like, have you found that you've really got into and you've thought this is completely different to what I've been writing any other book?
The most recent one, Murder in the Family. I absolutely adored writing that. I mean, it almost wrote itself. I mean, in some ways, I mean, it was quite complicated because of doing the screenplay side, which I hadn't done before, and having so many different aspects of the story going at any one time. But it absolutely was a joy to write. I totally loved writing it, and I'm definitely going to write something similar again because I've just had so much fun with it. The most fun I've ever had at a laptop.
I can imagine. I can't imagine like the whole layout of the book is so different to anything that I've ever read. I know that I've never read anything like it before. I can't imagine all the things that must have been just zooming through your mind to be able to get it all into that format.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I had, as you know, I've written books which have had, TV programs in amongst them. So there was a
Yeah, and
similar,
like tweets and interviews
yeah,
and TV
yeah.
and
And there was a similar Netflix documentary in Hope to Die, and bits of that in The Darkest World. Obviously, we had the podcast in The Whole Truth.
yeah.
So I'm quite used to writing things that sound like a screenplay or more like a screenplay. But I just thought in this one, I'm going to push it the whole way. I'm going to take myself out of this story completely. And I'm just going to give my reader all the things that they tell me they love, which is transcripts and maps and pictures and, everything
Yeah, I
like
do have to
that.
admit, I love the fact that you add all them little tidbits into the books. I love
Yeah.
like finding one and being like, oh, another one.
Well, I love doing it too. It's my favorite bit. I always do those things last.
Yeah, yeah.
Because they're like my treat at the end, like when you're little and you always eat the nicest thing on the
Yeah,
plate last. Well, I did
yeah.
when I was a little girl. So it's a bit like that with these books. I always leave all those artwork things to the end
It's like a
because I
little
do all
treat
my own
to yourself.
artwork. Yeah, I do all my own artwork. I'm such a geek, I just love doing it. So none of that stuff is produced by my publishers. I do it all myself.
We actually, I know you probably know that we read, well, my book club read Murder in the Family as the last book, and every single person was just like, "Wow, I can't believe that! How did she do that? Wow, how?" And everyone was just so impressed. And I was like, "Well, if you've read that one and you love it, you need to read all the other ones too." And everyone's like, "Well,
Bless
I am."
you. Bless you.
We've
Thank you.
actually had quite a few people comment that they volunteer as tribute to victims.
So, say that again. Sorry.
We've had quite a few people comment saying they volunteer as tribute to be your next victims in your books.
Oh, well, yeah, send me a messages. If you want to be a victim, there's always room.
I mean, I've already volunteered too. So,
Okay. All right. Well,
how have you found the actual publishing process?
well, I was very lucky, of course, because it went very easily at the beginning with Close to Home, because obviously that one, it went to auction, which is like a writer's dream come true. And then we had Richard and Judy, like I mentioned. So that was, that really was a very easy run, and I was very lucky. I mean, I have written some stuff in the past, and it was a harder thing to do than this series has just gone very easily. And I'm not under any illusions. It's not like that all the time, but it's all about perseverance, actually. And anyone will tell you that so many people don't get published for a while, and they have to
Yeah,
keep at it. So again, it's what I would always say to aspiring writers. It's about practice in terms of your craft, and it's about perseverance in terms of publishing.
yeah, I like that. If you could go back in time and tell your younger Cara one thing, what would you tell them?
Be more confident. When I
Yeah,
when I was younger, I really lacked confidence. I know, I just, I just wish now that I see kids, kids, I say kids, but only because they're so much younger than me. I see sort of 18-year-olds and 20-year-olds now, and they seem to have so much confidence. And I just wish I'd had something like that when I was, their age and just felt I could take on the world. And I didn't feel that at the time, but I wish I'd felt like that. And that's what I'd tell myself, be more confident, have more of a go.
I think we could all do it going back and telling ourselves that, really.
Yeah, well, yeah, perhaps it's more common than I realised. It's not just me.
Got a little bit of a challenge for you as well. Everyone seems to like this one. Tell us your books in one sentence.
Say again, which one?
Tell us your books in
Sell,
one
oh,
sentence.
sell you, right. Oh, okay. Well, now that is a challenge. I can sell Murder in the Family
Yeah.
in one sentence, I think, which is it's basically Agatha Christie meets true crime telly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's
that's a
the
good
whole,
one.
yeah, it's a whole and then there were none thing where, we know when we start the book that one of these people involved in the TV show is actually the original killer, even though they don't know that. Well, obviously the killer does, but nobody else does.
Yeah.
So I think that's the sort of Agatha Christie twist on it. But there's also an extremely modern way of telling the story, obviously, it being true crime TV, which is such a modern thing. And so many people are really into it, including me. I've watched a lot, as you can probably imagine.
Yeah. Well, saying that, have you got any good recommendations for any true crime? Because I'm always up for new things.
Ah, right. Okay. Well, funnily enough, I did an article actually for an American magazine a while back about the bits of, the parts of true crime series that I've really enjoyed. One of them is The Jinx, which is actually mentioned in the book, which is an incredible true crime TV show. I also I've watched several times. There's one called American Murder: The Family Next Door. I don't know if you've seen
I
that one,
haven't.
which is about the Chris Watts case, which is a truly harrowing
Yeah.
case about a man who kills his entire family. And that one's all told through the social media of the wife who's killed, because she's on social media so much that they've basically told the whole story through that, which is very, very interesting way of telling the story. And you can see why I found that interesting, because I then took part of that as the idea to go into Murder in the Family, to take myself out of the story completely. So that one's very moving, but also very interesting the way it's told. And there's also one called Murder on Middle Beach, which is a young filmmaker going back and trying to work out something that happened in his family. So again, you can see where that little germ of an idea went into Murder in the Family as well. So a filmmaker trying to solve a long unsolved crime in his own family.
I think I'm going to have to go back, watch all of these documentaries, and then reread Murder in the Family and do some little comparisons.
Yeah, well, you'll see where some of it's from. Yeah, definitely. I mean, I've taken different things from different places.
Are the Portuguese editions behind you?
Yeah, they are. Yeah, yeah. I've got all my editions behind me. There you go. There you go.
Not quite behind me, unfortunately, but as you can see right there, um, the little pile stacked on top of each other is my little Cara Hunter collection.
Oh, oh, sweet. Yeah, yeah. I love it.
Now, I thought, oh, tripod nearly tried to kill me. That would have been a good one. Now that's all of my questions. We seem to have sped through them pretty quickly. Is there anybody else who has any questions before we let the lovely Cara?
You're very sweet, and I'm very sorry again that I didn't come on at the right time.
It's okay. Things get mixed up all the time, don't they?
No, so well. As I say, I'm sorry. Well, but we got there.
We did.
Eventually when I finally worked out how to use
And
live. But at
we
least
know
next
how to
time
use it next time.
I won't be so rubbish next time.
Oh, is there anything you could tell us about any upcoming books that we can look forward to?
Well, my editor would probably tell me off. It's one of those I could tell you, but I'd have to kill you things. No, I'm only joking. It's fully coming back, as I've said, for the next book. Though the one after will probably be another standalone. No, I don't know what that will be because I haven't got the idea yet. But Fawley, the interesting thing maybe for Fawley, for a little sort of teaser, is I've moved time along quite a long way in the next Forley, because you may remember that Hope to Die took place in 2018. I mean, the book came out after that, but the book was set in 2018. And of course, certain things have happened in the meantime, like the wretched pandemic that was so
Yeah.
terrible for all of us. And I just don't want to write about that. I don't know about you. I don't want to write about it. I don't want to read about it. It's all too close. And I just want to for now, just sort of move on from that. So I'm not writing a book set in 2020. I'm moving fully on to 2024. So that's when the book will be published next year. So that's 6 years. So 6 years have passed in Forley's life, in the life of the team, since we last saw them. So in a way, I'm hoping this is a good way to sort of give the sort of next book some new energy, because it means like you're moving people around, things have happened. His daughter's grown up a bit, so that's
Oh,
really sweet. So that's nice. But he's moved on a bit, and for me, sort of going back to the series after doing Murder in the Family, it was a really good way to just sort of shake things up a little bit, because you really have to work hard, I think, with a series to keep it fresh.
yeah.
Last thing you want is for people to say, "Oh, it's sort of trailing off." You don't want that. So I thought that was a good way of doing it, to actually sort of move things on and avoid the pandemic and not
Yeah.
having to write about it.
I mean, a lot of us read to get away from the pandemic, not to.
Yeah, I know. I know. I mean, there have been some very good books set in the
Yeah.
pandemic, but I just don't want to go there. I mean, it was
I couldn't
horrible for
imagine putting
everybody.
myself back in that mindset either, to write it and remember
No,
everything. Like, it's
exactly.
traumatic.
I know exactly. I mean, why would we? I mean, it really, no, I no, no, no. Anyway, I'm not doing that. So don't worry. You won't have to go through that in the next Forley.
We have a. Do you have any upcoming book events?
I've got a few. I think I've got one coming up in London. I've got one coming up in Basingstoke. I'm going to the book party in Birmingham, which is at the end of November. I don't know if anyone knows about that. So it looks like it's going to be a blast. A whole load of authors turn up, and there are cocktails and music, and what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah,
so that's going to be fun. But I think I've posted a lot of my events on a Instagram post a while back. So if you have a look at, just scroll back a bit, you can find some of them, and I'll be updating them as new ones come along.
that's pretty exciting. If anyone's near any of those, you've got them right there. I've read all of the Portuguese editions. When will we have the next book?
I don't know. I think it's coming, but I'm not sort of up to speed on exactly when all the different translations are coming out, because there are so many now. We're up to 30 languages, which is
Wow.
just incredible, absolutely incredible. So I can't sort of off the top of my head say when each one is coming out,
Yeah.
because all of the countries are at a different point in the cycle. So some of the Scandinavian in particular are very much up to date. They're quite close to the English ones in terms of when they're coming out. But some of the other countries are further back, and some of them are only just starting. So, it's all happening at different times. But as far as I know, the Portuguese ones are still coming. So let's hope it's going to be soon.
Okay, yeah. Well, I think you've got a lot of love coming from different countries as well. You've got Spain, Sweden.
Hello, everybody.
I've missed them. Wow, I don't think I've ever had such a diverse audience before. That's amazing. So yeah, if no one else has got any questions, I think. Have you ever named a character after someone who has irked you and then killed them off?
I haven't named someone after a character, but I've certainly given a character some characteristics, shall we say. But you have to be a bit careful. You don't want them
And if you're
recognising themselves.
watching this, you know who you are.
No, you have to. I mean, I'm only joking, but yeah. I mean, I do often put my friends' names on characters, because I mean, I have a lot of minor characters in the books, as you know, so witnesses and all sorts. So I often use my friends' names for those, and that can be quite
I
funny.
love that though.
I have a friend who was an appropriate adult, which was hilarious because she's not really an appropriate adult. She enjoyed that. She enjoyed that a lot.
I love that. Right, I think that is absolutely everything. If it is, then
Well, it was
thank you so
well,
much
it
for
was
joining us, Cara.
lovely to do it, and thank you so much for teaching me as much as anything else how
I
to
have
do
to at
this.
least try to get you on here because obviously, as you know, you're one of my favourite authors, and I've
Oh,
been
bless you.
reading your books for years now, so I thought it's about time that I've
Yeah,
tried to
well,
at least get her on here.
thank you for doing it. Thank you for making me do it, and thank you for being a fantastic interviewer.